guys, Jim Archeco, Archeco Homes team here. Today I'm going to show you how to install a single man door, also known as a single entry door. We're working here on what was an entry door into a garage on the front of a house. We've already got the door out here. As you can see, the opening is already prepped. This is the door that is going to be going in. This one happens to be a fiberglass door. They come in steel, fiberglass, wood, whatever your preference is. There's anything to choose from. This has grids on the outside. There's grids in the glass, you know, whatever your preference is. But I'm going to try to do this single-handedly, actually. And I'm going to show you how it can be done with one person, but you probably should have an extra set of hands around. I've done this a few times, but for demonstration purposes, I'm going to try to do this by myself and show you that it can be done, but it'll be easier with two. So I'm going to get started here, and there's tons of different ways to put a door in. You know, what really works for you. The goal in the end is for it to be plumb, level, square, open and close properly, and for the gaps on the inside to look correct and be sealed and, you know, sealed up from the elements. So just some things to keep in mind. This is a garage door as well, so, you know, same purpose for a front door or a door going into your main house. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get started by showing you some of the things that you're going to need to put this door in. You're going to need a level. You're going to need a driver, a drill, some silicone, and some shims. Eventually you'll need a door handle and some insulation as well for the inside. You're also going to need 3-inch screws. Which we got right here. And the door also comes with some longer screws that we're going to show you where those go. They're to go through the hinge. They help adjust the door and they give the door a little bit more security. Now on the outside of this door we have brick mold here, and when we set the door we're actually going to drill through this brick mold and get a screw in there to set, because our door eventually is going to get wrapped in metal and the brick mold's not going to get painted, so they're going to get covered. So if it was going to get painted, you would recess your screw in so you can fill the head and paint it. There's also a couple other areas where we're going to show you where you can hide screws and put screws. So to get started, I'm going to take the silicone and I'm going to seal right down here the bottom sill here where this door is going to sit. I've already looked at the bottom and we have a bunch of flat spots on the door. So I'm just going to whip a bunch of clear silicone in here just to seal it in general. Just a practice that I like to do. Can never have too much. It'll squeeze it right in. Now this is a little smaller door. It's a 30-inch door, so, you know, it's easily handled by one person, but, you know, you might want to have an extra set of hands, like I said. So I'm going to grab the door on both sides and pick it up. First, I'm going to show you this over here. This is holding the door closed right now. It's factory packaging, basically. It holds the door closed. We're going to just unscrew this part right here, and we're going to toss it to the side for now. And we're going to leave it in, and we'll pop that out once we get the door set, because that's going to keep it closed when we're handling it here. So I'm going to pick up this door, and I'm going to set it in this opening. So I'm going to grab both sides of the brick mold. I'm just going to pick up, walk it over to the opening, and I'm going to set it in just like so. Kick it around a little bit, get it into place. I'm going to check the brick mold with the level here, and we are on a plumb right now. So we know that we have to plumb this up some, which the bottom's got to go this way and the top's got to go this way some. And see right there, we can get it plumb, the bottom over and the top over like that. So we know where we got to go. So we're going to come to the inside of the door, and we're going to grab these shims. This is where it's nice to have another set of hands to hold that door from moving on you. But we look like we're in good shape. So we know that we want to send this over some on this side. We're going to shim this door a little bit here. And the goal is to get this top gap here to look good. And we know that we want it to kick this over this way a little bit. So we're going to move this tight over here. And we're going to get a shim right behind this hinge. Because again, like I said, the goal is to get this door plumb, square, level, and functioning properly. So we know we shim that tight. Now we're gonna look down these gaps, and they look really good. And we're gonna look across that top gap, and that's looking really good right there as well. So again, I'm gonna come on the outside, and I'm gonna check the level on this brick mold, and we're pretty close to plumb there. We gotta just come over just a touch more over here. So we're gonna shim the top over just a touch more, but we're not gonna shim it over too much, because if we shim it over too much, we're gonna change the top gap up here to being a little bit out of whack, and we wanna get that as close as possible too. So we're just gonna move it just a touch so that top gap is about the same. So now the door is pretty much set where we want it, and it's not gonna move on us because it's all shimmed. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come on the outside here, and we're gonna start in the bottom, and we're gonna pre-drill. We're gonna make sure we're against the house. We're gonna pre-drill a couple of holes. And now on this door we have to drill pretty high because we got concrete block up to here. So we wanna make sure we're high enough where we're catching wood when we put these screws in. And again, like I said, this is getting wrapped in metal because the house is getting re-sided and everything, so we don't have to worry about countersinking our heads or anything. So we're just going to put these screws in to hold the door right now. Right through the brick mold, and it sucked it nice and tight to the sheeting of the house. So we're going to do another one up here because it seemed to not have kept it much as I would like. And again, like I said, all these are getting covered, so there we go. We caught it there. So we want to check the door again just to make sure it didn't move on us, and it did not. We're just going to take a quick peek at the gaps inside again. We look good up that side. Our top looks good. Down our hinge looks good. So we are going to do the same thing on this brick mold to the top that we just did to the bottom. We're going to put a couple of screws in. Now, you can also screw through the jamb here and countersink your screws as well. But we're going to screw it in various spots as well. So we're probably not going to do that on this one, but you can. Now we're going to throw one in the middle. On both sides. Just like so. Alright, so now the door is pretty much set. Temporarily, but it's set. So we're going to come in the inside here, look at our gaps. We're going to make sure that everything looks good to us, and it does for the time being. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop this out now. I got a little nail set in my hand. You can pop it out with a screwdriver and nail set. You just want to kind of pry that out, and it'll come right out. And then you got to just kind of nestle it through the hole. And now we're going to check for the door to open and close properly, that it's not hitting on anything. So right now we're hitting a little bit up top there. So we know that we're a little high, a little pulled over this way. So we're gonna wanna change that. And that's where we're hitting, right there. So to do that, we're gonna loosen up our top screws here and adjust the door. So we've unscrewed our top, and now we're just going to adjust this door so that it still has a good gap and opens and closes without hitting. It's just a minor adjustment. A minor adjustment, and we're just going to shift it just a little bit. We'll get a couple of shims and we're going to put them over here. We just got to get it a hair over, not much. Then we're going to make sure we don't put it out of plumb too much because we want to keep it as plumb as can. This one has a really nice tight weather strip, so when it's closed, it's going to sit right there. And you see, we're not hitting anything on the jamb, and when we close it, it makes a nice seal, and our gaps are nice and even. And this gap where the latch is, we'll move in with a shim as we go to secure it. So we really like where the door is right there right now. So I'm just going to check it to make sure it isn't out of plumb, and you can check it here, and it's pretty close. I mean, it's almost as perfect as you're going to get it. So we like it there right now. Now, I'm not going to screw these back into the same holes because our door will go exactly back to where it was. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a new hole underneath it, and a new hole underneath this one. And like I said, in this case, it's okay because we're wrapping that in metal. If the door was getting painted and we had to fill the holes, it might be a good idea to put them in the jamb or the next place that I'm going to show you to put them. Well, we got nothing there, so we got to kind of find something. So we got a little bit of angle and we caught. And then over here, we're going to have to do the same thing, put on a little bit of an angle to catch. And now we're just going to take these screws right out and not worry about them because... So now we're going to check the door one more time to make sure we got it. And we do. Everything looks good. Everything lines up good. Everything seals good. Got good gaps everywhere, okay? So we're shimmed off in a few places. Now we want to go through, and any gaps that are on the hinges, if you're not tight to the jamb, we're going to want to shim out so that we can take those screws that came with the door and put them through the hinges. They'll actually secure the door through the hinges. So I'm going to grab some shims here. And we're going to shim so when we take out the screw in the hinge, it'll go right through these shims and be completely solid. Now you don't want to over shim because it'll change how your door is. It'll change how your door is. So I've got those shimmed. And again, we just want to make sure that we didn't over shim, so we check the door. And now we're going to take those screws that came with the door, those longer screws, and we're going to pull out the top screw up top. And we're going to send that long screw that came with it right through the hinge and the shims. Now, if you're working on an existing door and it might be hitting up top here, you might be able to take a large screw or a 3-inch screw or a screw larger than this and take this top screw out and get the door to suck over and adjust your door, whether it be with the top hinge or the bottom hinge. Just a little trick there. If you have a door that's not closing properly in your house right now, you can make a few minor adjustments by changing the screws out in the hinge to suck it one way or the other. So now we got those in, and we're through the jamb and into the studding. We're just going to check that door one more time and make sure it closes good, the gap looks good. Okay, so now what we want to go ahead and go through is we want to continue to secure the door off. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our drill, and this is what I like to do. This is hiding screws behind this weather strip. You don't want to over screw anything, so I'm going to drill behind this weather strip in a few spots. The hinge side is very important to get snug. And I'm gonna sink a few screws in there. And as long as the heads lay flat, the weather strip will go right down and they'll be covered. And they'll always be out of the way and no one will ever know they're there. But when you do that, you want to be very careful not to suck the jamb over. If you need more shims on the other side, that works well. Or put the screw in and then back out. And then put it back in. That way you can not suck that jamb over. You got two more to put in here. And then we're going to show you how to do the latch side. And we're gonna, once we do this, we're gonna check to make sure we didn't suck this jamb over, that we ourselves don't need any more shims in the door. So I'm gonna close the door again. I'm gonna make sure everything looks good. It closes well, it seals good. We did not suck our jamb over, our gaps look great. So now our goal, look at how nice that door seals when it's closed, when it's gonna be latched. It's a nice seal on this one. So our goal is to get this gap down here looking pretty much symmetrical, pretty much even, which it pretty much does. We just got to bring it in here a little bit, which we'll just do with a couple of shims. And we're just going to kick that in a little bit. Right like that, and that looks much better. It's pretty close, and that's where we're going to leave it. And we're going to do the same thing down this side now. We're going to pre-drill right behind this weather strip. In a few spots. And again, the goal is not to move this jamb. So if you need to do a little shimming where you screwed, you should, and we're going to go ahead and do that ourselves because we're not tight to anything. So just kind of where you got the screw there, you're going to want to get a shim behind there so you're not pushing out the jamb. You're not pushing the jamb in and changing that gap in the function of the door. So now that you got that shimmed, again, just check your door. Gaps look good, closes good. Now you're going to go through and put those screws in. Behind this weather stripping. Great place to screw a door is behind the weather stripping here, as long as you don't hurt the weather stripping and you sink the heads. Oh, dropping screws all over. And we got one more here. Okay, so now this door is completely screwed off. It's really secure. If you want to feel like you need to put a few more screws in the brick mold, or you want to put a couple in the jamb, just don't move anything around and you can do that. But this door is pretty screwed off and it's pretty much set. Everything closes and opens properly. There's gaps around the door on the inside that look absolutely perfect. The door is plumb, the door is level, and it functions properly and makes a great seal. The next step is to cut the shims off, which we'll go through and cut off, and then you can put your lock set on. After you put your lock set on, you just want to make sure that the handle works correctly and the lock works correctly. You may want to use longer screws through your deadbolt so they actually catch some framing and they go into something so that it can't be kicked in, because normally on a lock set they'll give you these little screws like this and they just go into the jamb. They just go into the jamb of the door, and that's really not safe. If you're going to put your deadbolt through here, these screws should catch the framing back here, so it makes it harder for somebody to kick the door in for security purposes. So this door is pretty much finished up. We'll just go ahead and put the lock set in. Every lock set is different, so just follow your instructions. And you have yourself a man door here. Any questions? Give us a ring.